NATO Chief Mark Rutte gave the EU a reality check during his speech in the European Parliament, where he warned nations that they are dreaming if they think Europe can defend themselves without the US.
So when President Trump is doing good stuff, I will praise him. And I don't mind him publishing text messages. And if anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other.
He then gave a warning saying if Europe wants to go at it without the US, it will cost them.
But for Europe, if you really want to go it alone, and those of you who are pleading for that, forget that you can ever get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You have to build up your own nuclear capability. That costs billions and billions of euros. You will lose then, in that scenario, you would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the US nuclear umbrella. Good luck.
Online commentators had mixed responses to the blunt warning. This person said, "Stop saying this nonsense. We can and we must. Europe is not some helpless dependency that needs to rent its security from the United States forever. We are an economic superpower with world-class industry, technology, talent, and capital. The idea that Europe is fundamentally incapable of defending itself is learned helplessness. The US is not special by magic. It has built its military power through decades of investment, coordination, and political will. Europe can do the exact same if it chooses to. That means rolling up our sleeves, investing seriously, integrating our forces, and finally dropping the slave mentality that says someone else will always save us. Depending on the US was a choice. Becoming self-reliant is also a choice. And given today's world, it's no longer optional." But this person agreed with the NATO chief, saying, "Surely there isn't anyone anywhere who seriously thinks Europe can defend itself without the help of the US. Even if we increase defense spending to 10% of GDP, it would take 20 years because China and Russia will increase theirs too." And Donald Trump agrees, sounding a very blunt warning to the EU during his address to NATO at Davos.
Daddy can be great until you misbehave. Then you need him to whip you into shape. Sometimes the Europeans think they can run things on their own. We don't know if that's nostalgia or delusion, but it's affecting our relationship.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody and say I don't recognize it. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction.
Europe used to be great, but they started too many wars they couldn't win, opened their borders, stopped having babies, and went full-blown socialist because they knew we had their back.
The tension between the US and Europe has been mounting for weeks, following Trump's unrelenting push to take over Greenland. And whilst many European leaders are vowing not to support the US in this mission, the NATO chief has Trump's back.
So statements from me will not add anything here. And when it comes to the Arctic, I think President Trump is right. Other leaders in NATO are right. We need to defend the Arctic. We know that these sea lanes are opening up. We know that China and Russia are increasingly active in the Arctic. There are 8 countries bordering on the Arctic. 7 are a member of NATO. That's Finland and Sweden and Norway and Denmark, Iceland, Canada and the US. And there's only one country bordering on the Arctic outside NATO, and that's Russia. And I would argue there is a 9th country, which is China, which is increasingly active in the Arctic region. So President Trump and other leaders are right. We have to do more there. We have to protect the Arctic against Russian and Chinese influence. And that's exactly what NATO ambassadors decided to do in September. We are working on that, making sure that collectively will we defend the Arctic region.
Commentator Eric Doherty reacted, saying they admit it in the end. But this European commentator called out the NATO chief, saying, "You know, Mark Rutte is known as the Lying Dutchman, right? He just says whatever Trump wants to hear. He cares mostly about the EU and getting Ukraine in EU and NATO, and keeping his nice NATO job that he got by using Dutch taxpayer money to go promote himself around the world."